Welcome back from the commercial break. We are still going on in our economic analysis, looking at the factors that hinders socio-economic development of our citizens and as well our country. We bring this topic of discussion remembering that we have challenges of disaster management. In the policy implementation, especially in the allocation of funds, we've had the challenges on record of where the funds under the Prime Minister's office, not that I'm either pinning a specific individual, but yet even the individuals are known to have mismanaged the funds. We appreciate for stakeholders across divide, where we are aware that the NGOs have intervened in such kind of scenarios. Northeastern Uganda, recalling what is happening in Kamoja, such scenario is something that the countrymen and countrywomen outside there, we should look at. We don't only be quick to get interested in also relief, providing relief, and we don't look at the root cause of the problem and how to manage situations of disaster. I'm still moving forward with Honorable Henry Banyenzachi. I cited 2010, the National Disaster Management Policy was launched, and it had a number of objectives and mission. And the main mission, it was to create an effective framework through which disaster preparedness and management is entrenched in all aspects of the development process, focusing on saving lives. And also the livelihoods and country's resources, the country's resources. So Honorable Banyenzachi, when we went for the break, our dear guest, we said it remains a question of debate of why the challenge of failing to account for the public resources in the allocation of these funds, it is still a challenge.
Inadequate.
And also another challenge remains where the policymakers tend to conflict. Those who are at the district level, those who are in the Prime Minister's office, at a certain point, there is when a state minister in charge for disaster preparedness, Honorable Hilaronek, was of a concern why at certain level is not involved. The districts, one time when I visited on a committee, which I was a technical person of a parliamentary committee to do that, the districts seem to also have a challenge about the very policy in place, the emerging of issues, and how the policy is coordinated between the center and the district. It remains a challenge. What do you think should be done best to resolve the financial management challenge, and also to look at how the policy can streamline the coordination of disaster management, linking central government and local government?
You see, it was not by mistake that the disaster management function was put in the office of the Prime Minister. Because as you do your presentation, you see you are revolving around the policy coordination and policy harmonization. And as I had said before, this is the cardinal role of the Prime Minister, to do the coordination and the harmonization of government programs and projects within the ministries, departments, and agencies. The moment this one lacks, then that therefore, even the policy management that you are putting in place can't be implemented. There will be policy gaps. There will be implementation gaps. So simple. The housing framework, the policy framework is lacking, inadequate. Because it is inadequate, implementation is poor. Because the implementation is poor, the achievements are minimal.
Do you have anything you appreciate in terms of the policy being implemented so far for the last years? Anything do you appreciate?
Other than firefighting?
Because I was in Bududa and I saw how they relocated those from Bududa and they took them to Chang.
And that was after how many years? In disaster management, there's something which is they call early warning signs. Why do you have cracks on the Elgon Mountain? You see them, they are visible, they are warning, everything is there to show you, but you are waiting for the people to be buried first, and then you locate them. You want me to tell you that that was the best thing that can be done? Is that the best way of implementing the disaster management policy? As we speak now, those cries are there within the Elgon region, within the Bududa, within all those regions. There are areas which are giving cracks, very imminent, that they are going to have landslides. But the authorities keep quiet. So if the early warning signs are not even be there, are not be drummed, are not incorporated, there's no harmonization. The ministers within the prime ministers are fighting themselves. You have said Hillary Onek was dissatisfied. So at that level, the apex level, the Minister for Disaster Management is in conflict with his boss, the Prime Minister, and say, please let me do my work. If you don't let me do my work, I will resign. So what do you expect? How do you expect to have harmonization and coordination in that kind of environment? So first of all, let the seniors sort out themselves first, and then let the cardinal office, the Prime Minister's office, coordinate and harmonize. Minister of Finance to release funds, Minister of Agriculture, Food Security, Minister of Works and Transport, motorable roads, Minister of Health, adequate hospitals to accommodate for epidemics if they arise. You have enough bed capacity, you have drugs, you have the staff. Why would you want to staff when an epidemic comes on? Why would you want to recruit because Ebola has come from Congo? Because COVID, there is an emergence of COVID, and then you want to recruit at that time. People are not trained. You don't have even the right people. Why do you want to buy food when there is hunger in Karamoja? You don't hear any food security. You don't hear of any food storage system to take care of the people of Karamoja. When you are going to ask who are the people who are supposed to be in charge of this disaster within Karamoja, they are absent in their jobs.
Who should we hold responsible for the human disaster that we are facing in this city, of this flooding in of children? And what should be done? What should be done best?
Prime Minister.
And we want to see stakeholder
because the office
participation.
of the disaster management is housed within the Prime Minister's office. So who to blame? Prime Minister.
Should we go for the blame game, or we need to do something better than that?
How will you do it when you don't have the resources? You will stop at talking, and what else will you do? Demonstrate and be tear gassed? What else are you going to do? Can you tell me what else you can do? Do you have the resources to buy foods for people who come from Rwanda? Do you have resources to buy foods and build silos in Rwanda and store grains?
You are an advocate of sustainable development.
Yes.
And in that dimension, I don't think that it's only the state that should be held responsible on. There are a number of key players. It's not about the finances I have,
yes,
but also understanding that we have the role of all stakeholders, the primary stakeholders, the secondary stakeholders, and for us in this advocacy, through this media platform, I'm doing my part.
Fine. Yes, you have very many facilitators, including you are private sector and media all together. But who facilitates? Who facilitates these various players? Who facilitates them? Who coordinates them? Who harmonizes them? If this person, if this office is lacking, the offices that coordinates, the offices that harmonizes, the offices that facilitates is lacking, you'll be writing on water.
There's something I would like us to agree with, and the viewers outside there. We are driving to a point where if there is a challenge, should we always only wait for the government? Even when it looks to be that, yes, we are not in charge of controlling resources, there is a scenario which is happening here in human terms possible, where we have children on the streets. That's also a disaster. I categorize it. And all of us as citizens, and including where we talk about the state, we are looking on. I'm with you here.
You see, Doctor, these people of Uganda, you see, have their own problems. Their responsibility, and you have a minister for Karamoja. If we are having children powering in from Karamoja, why doesn't the Ministry of Karamoja swing in action and put these children together and address the problem? You expect yourself to address the problem, yourself to address these Karamoja street children?
In a developing country context, what should have been done?
It is in the developed countries context. It is the government that provides the enabling environment. It is the government that facilitates.
When it fails, what should be done? Because we are about the economic welfare of the people, and we must move forward.
When it fails, it is voted out of power.
Voted out of power?
Yes.
Suppose you were the president, what could you do to curb down that?
Of course you could. I have told you there is
the policy initiatives.
Gaps in coordination. There are gaps in harmonization. There are gaps in funding. If I was to be the president today, the first thing I would do is to have the team, to appoint a team that helps me, the team that works, the team that delivers, the team that implements, because you begin from there. Because if you are going to a war and you don't have an army, you'll be defeated.
But the team is there.
There's one thing of having a team and you have a team which doesn't do what we are talking about. You know? Or you may have a team and the team is starved with resources. So if you have the team and the team is starved with resources, what will they do? If you have a team that's not being financed by the Ministry of Finance, what will they do? If you have a team and it's just a team for the sake of having a name and say that the office of there is a disaster management commission and it has to be 5 people, and which has not been operationalized anyway. We are talking about policy implementation. It is a constitutional mandate that the Prime Minister's office ought to have appointed a disaster management commission. Up to now, it's not there. So even if it is there and you put a commission, commissioners who are not facilitated, commissioners who doesn't know what to do, commissioners, who are lacking almost in everything. What will they do? Nothing.
Commissioners are trained people and they are qualified.
You may be trained, but if you are trained to do something and you are not facilitated, what will you do?
Okay, Honorable, while moving forward, we want to go to the area of where there is a, outcry on the issue of accountability, the failure in management of these resources. During the days of COVID, we had that challenge, including donations, which were given by some people, development partners, and individual responsible citizens. And it is cited that over billions of money, above 500 billion, which were mismanaged, and the accountability that was to be given even before the floor of Parliament, up to now there is nothing in terms of recovering the lost fund during that disaster management. And of that we do count that it has an effect on economic stability of our country, where funds are mismanaged and couldn't do the right thing. What should be done best to curb down the mismanagement of fund under disaster that is located for disaster management?
The prudent management and management of funds, efficient and effective management of funds, is not limited to the disaster management department or commission per se. It should be across the government. When we are talking about, and I like the words we are using, which are nursing and massaging the corruption environment that we are faced with. Now the whole issue is corruption. If you say that you allocated, the little money that was allocated, did it reach the people during the COVID? The little money that was allocated to food, was the right food bought? Was the right food bought in its quantities? Was the food of quality? So you find that all these things, they flouted everything. There was corruption. There is a report. It is very clear. Money was stolen, broad daylight. Nothing has been done. Goods bought were of inferior quality. Beans and maize and flour, they were of inferior quality. So the whole thing is that, and all that thing is enshrined in bad governance. So if all these things are lacking, brother, we shall be, I have told you, we shall talk and talk and talk.
Do you have bad governance?
When the cows come through.
Do you have bad governance?
What I've been describing describing is nothing but poor or bad governance of the whole system. So maybe you want to put it black and white and say that the policy is poorly governed and implemented. Okay. And for you, you are using policy gaps.
I'm using policy gaps.
Yeah, policy gaps.
Yeah,
so the issue is
that's analytical language.
That is language. Massaging a problem.
It's policy analytical language, and for yours maybe it is political analytical.
They have
language.
Failed. Policy
they
failure.
Have failed.
Policy failure.
Policy failure.
Yes.
Policy failure.
Yes.
So, dear viewers and listeners, we will be looking at the impact analysis, and we will make a correlation. We will look at whether we will talk about the first area, refugees. You know, we have had an uproar on our government that we've been helping the neighborhood countries to accommodate refugees. But the impact of refugees on our economic growth is not realized. Whether do we benefit or it is just a humanitarian action. We are much more of humanitarianists than maybe benefit from it. But again, it is known there are some people who have benefited out of having refugees in this country. That is another question of debate. Then number two, would like to look at the impact of famine, continuous famine in Karamoja. How does it affect the economic growth of those people in Karamoja? And what is the root cause of this famine? Because famine doesn't just occur. The preparedness, you have said it very well, we lack preparedness in terms of the food storage and so forth. But we'd like to look at what's the impact. How does it affect us? We know that we had the effect of COVID-19. But there are some countries, even if they had a number of all those pandemics, they are in a position to manage, to mitigate it, and overcome it. What is the impact analysis that you can give us on that?
The impact, of course, is the people, the Wananchi first suffer. You have people, a population of people who are vulnerable. The most vulnerable people suffer. And when you have these vulnerable people who are vulnerable suffering, then you are having poverty, entrenched poverty. When you have this kind of poverty, that's where you have diseases, that's where you have ignorance, that's where you have, the cycle of poverty. It sets in because of this. So the effects are very bad. So the issue of saying that even when we have been talking about the Millennium Development Goals, you cannot, no hungry person can produce anything. Production is hampered. A hungry person is an hungry person. They will be rural, they will be unruly, there will be crime. So all this kind of not mitigating disaster, not managing disaster very well, there will be hunger, there will be crime, there will be, it will even cause inflation itself when you talk about, because there will be too much money chasing little goods. You have too much money chasing food which is not available because there was no preparedness, because there was no food storage. So the effect is catastrophic. You are preparing for a catastrophe, and you are preparing for your population to be vulnerable. You are health-wise, education-wise, income-wise, so everything gets affected. So the impact is bad. When you are talking about like these children of Karamoja, all of them at the street of Kampala, you are having a rusty generation in Karamoja. You are having a generation which is rusty, a generation that would have taken their area into the development. What we call, for example, now we have the biggest number of the youth. Instead of gaining from the youth dividend, you cannot gain from the youth dividend because there are no youth. So you find that in Karamoja, there are more dependents who are old, not young. So if you have a higher population of the dependents, old dependents, what will they do? No production, high costs of medicine, because they will always be sick. And then, of course, there will be poverty. So, it is bad. It would be bad, definitely. The repercussions.
Honorable, I would like to employ you on a proposal that I bring in my commentary. And as you're saying, what can I do? I remain with that question. But here I would like to bring this and you see whether it could work. Having a people of the responsibility of your caliber and others who are not necessarily of your level also in their other fields, either they're in business, but they are having a compassionate heart. And they join together in this city, whether they write to the police, whether they write to where they say, want to make a charity walk in collaboration even of religious leaders to see how we can locate these children which goes to around 1,000. Don't you think that could be a good signal that could speak to the state to know that they have a fair responsibility? But the situation we are facing, why I raise up a proposal, because I don't want to stop at that.
Are you saying those kind of signals have not been done before?
But there's an initiative, the responsiveness of us, me and
Don't you remember when Dr. Chiza Besigye attempted to walk? Hasn't he been corroborated?
That's a different, it is politics.
So the problem is that what is not political?
Now for you, when you come and you are coming from NRM, and you leave politics aside, and you go and join with the Catholics of Rubaga and the Protestants of Namirembe, and you say you are religious leaders, we have come also as good citizens. Let us join you for a charity walk to raise up money that will relocate these children, the Ugandans, to their place. Don't you think it could speak louder?
Of course, that could be a very good initiative, provided that kind of framework is accepted.
And I will be able to join if it's
so. Is there tolerance?
Yes.
That's the question we bring with the question to ask. Is there tolerance? Because the people being mobilized, that means that they have disagreed with the government.
No, they are intervening in a situation that is not.
You are demonstrating. Pleasing. That's a peaceful demonstration. So do we have a framework that tolerates peaceful demonstration in this country? Do we have it?
You know better.
You are better informed. So if we don't have it, then we should not even think about it.
So it cannot work.
Yes, then it cannot work.
It cannot work.
So therefore, what we need concerted efforts. We need thinkers. We need policy tanks, policy implementation. We need serious people to do this kind of work. We need even the human resource gap that is not be filled. For example, it is a constitutional mandate that the Prime Minister's office appoints a disaster management commission, which is up to now, it has never been implemented. Maybe had we had that disaster management commission, we would be having an independent body to oversee this. But still, when you see an independent body, that is increased expenditure on the government side, which is being discouraged at this moment. But one has to balance. So the issue of disaster management is calls for many stakeholders, human resource, planners, enforcers, enforcement, mobilization of funds. So it is very, very important that the government gives the attention, the full attention that it takes to address these problems and this policy gap and the inherent failures of policy implementation.
Thank you, dear viewers of Smart 24 TV. Thank you, our dear guest, for your deliberation. And we will continue to look at, in the next session, as we go for the commercial break, the management of the refugee problem in Uganda. It has a socio-economic and political challenge, because understanding today the citizenship of our citizenship is quite a mixed phenomenon, to know who is a citizen here and who should neither know have been not a citizen. The refugees who come and take over, who are given land, they end up at times suppressing those who were the original citizens of Uganda. There is a case of Changwali, which in policy-wise I'm aware of, and the people were reallocated to elsewhere, and then leaving the land for the refugees, and finally the land was taken by someone else. So we'll be coming into those critical issues.
That is corruption.
We'll be dealing with those critical issues because they matter on how we can have an economy that is growing. It's a pleasure to continue with you in the second session. Don't go away. Stay tuned to Smart 24 TV until we meet again.